the eyes movement. Okay, so did you know that most of female-owned businesses always start with a story that is very personal? Most of the time we start a business not because it's cool to have a business, it's because there is a need in our life. Either we lose our job, we lose our loved ones, we lose a situation, we lose a relationship, we lose money, we lose something. And female are so creative that they decide to start up a solution. This is what we are about. We're about providing solutions for others, and it starts with our own solutions. So our guest today is Lynne Segal, and she's going to share the real story behind her business. And I'm not going to share more than that. I just want you to know that if you watch this show or the replay, we are at a pivotal moment right now in history. If you have a connection on the internet, then it means that you get the opportunity to go for your dreams. If you don't like what you live through right now, you can change it through the internet. Do you have a connection on the internet? Do you have an internet connection? Let us know, because if you do, you could become a Lynne. You could become an Angelique, okay? Woo, woo, woo. Okay. Hello, Lynne, who are you?
Well, let's start with this. I'm a nurse practitioner, bilingual, Acadian, New Brunswick-born nurse practitioner, and I offer secure bilingual virtual care to all of New Brunswick. Now,
okay. I just want you to tell us, where is New Brunswick? Because some people are watching from Australia, from US. Where is that?
Well, that is in Canada on the East Coast. And it's a little tiny province, beautiful province, and we love it here, and we intend to stay here. It's a perfect place to raise a family, and that was one of the reasons why I started this business, was so we could stay here, because I needed to survive my career as a nurse practitioner once I became a mom. I had 3 kids in 4 years, and something had to change. My husband's a ER physician. He's also a family doctor at that point when we started this journey with Access Point Health. So once I became like having a kid after the other, being in family practice was no longer sustainable, because we were dedicated. I'm still all dedicated. In family practice, your work comes home with you. You work late, and 3 babies in diapers.
Crazy woman.
And my husband back then was doing family practice and ER and hospital, and it was. I didn't want somebody else to raise my kids. So that's why, and also our license expires every 2 years. We need a minimum amount of hours. So it was, okay, after I decided I wanted to come back with my last one, my last child was the most difficult. You think you've got it all figured out, but the last one throws you through a loop. She was sick for the first 2 years of life. So that made everything more difficult, and I had actually didn't have enough hours to maintain my license. And when I did want to come back, I had to recertify. And once I recertified, there was no jobs. So I had a tick, 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 tick tock of, I have now this year gained more than 20 years experience under my belt as a healthcare professional. And I didn't want my brain to go to waste, but I still wanted to be a mom. So it was, where do I go from there? How do I do this? How do I create my own job in healthcare, which I know certain places around the world, it's more common to have a business in healthcare. But here, as a nurse practitioner, it's not a common thing. And particularly in 2017, this was, plowing the road. And I was the first to start a virtual care practice for New Brunswick and bring this innovation. I know maybe in the States it's something more common, but here it was not here yet. So I had to think outside the box, think of what I'm good at. So I'm super tech savvy, and I was a Girl Scout, so I am the gadget girl, as Angelique will know. I like to have every tool in the back of my pocket. So when I used to work prior to family practice, I was in remote, isolated Indigenous communities working the Outpost. So places that you could only go in by airplane. And so I was used to doing lots of telephone triage, and I was the first to have my Palm Pilot. This is back in the early 2000s with all my medical books. So I was super tech savvy. I could do lots of telephone triage. So that's where telehealth or video medical consults or virtual care kind of came into play as the forefront of what I thought I could do. So when I first opened, I contacted Angelique and I said, okay, all I'm hearing are crickets. I'm sure there's people that need access to care because in New Brunswick, we do have a huge access to care issue. And I was free in the beginning. I was making it for free. My license was on the line. If I didn't get my hours, I would have to go back to university. Going back to university with 3 young kids, it's just, this was a game over thing for me in the sense of all that I had gained. And I still had so much to give back. So that's sort of how it started. I know it's a bit of a winding road of going back in time to now.
Yeah. I love it because it's, if you live right now in a place where it's far away from all the urban centers and stuff, like you had that experience. Like, so before we travel Canada and then the north of Canada, let's go back to your childhood because it's not like away from everything, but almost, right? When we live where we are, we're not like close to urban centers. And tell us more about how the upbringing of your childhood and what brought you. Do you think there's anything that brought you to become an entrepreneur looking back?
I never thought I would be a business owner. No, that was not, it was really at a moment of desperation of to have to reinvent myself and to still continue doing what I loved. So I don't think I had that drive as a child. I want to own my business. I mean, I always had, you think of what you want to do as a career growing up. I always loved to take care of people. That's how becoming a nurse first came into play. I always took care of my sisters. When I would bring them Jello and bring them glasses of water, and I was just a little kid myself, but I was already in the nurse mode. So that's where, and I always had a inquisitive mind. I grew up in the outdoors and country and love having that connection to nature and understanding the natural world, anatomy and physiology and all of that. So that was my passion. Was I love to take care of people. I have that inquisitive mind for science. And yeah, that's how I became a nurse. But an entrepreneur only was out of a desperation to survive and to still use my mind, not just as a mom, but as a woman and as a healthcare professional.
Love it. So let's go back to before your business. So can you bring us back on that day or that phase in your life where you felt terrible and you felt that there was a bigger struggle of your life? And how did it feel?
Well, I think it was, the feeling was, I don't know if I have to go back in time, was it dread that this was all going to be a waste, right? That I could no longer do what I love doing, but I still wanted to be there with my kids. And even I didn't want to move from Fredericton. We could have moved away, but my husband was well established here in the community as an ER doctor in Fredericton, New Brunswick. And we had made friends. We wanted to stay here. So it was, my husband would be happy with me working anywhere in a coffee shop. And that was sort of where the alternative was, if I let this license go, he's going to want me to go work. I don't know. And I'm a good barista, as Angelique test, cappuccinos, macchiatos. I can do it. I enjoy doing that too. And I enjoy having them and sharing them. But that's not where I wanted my life to go. So, yeah, it was desperation.
Yeah. So what was your epiphany moment? Do you remember where you were or what happened that you said, this is it? I'm going to do it no matter what? Like, do you remember where you were or how it smelled, or bring us in the story of it? Because we always have those moments, and we're very alone most of the time. I find when talking with female entrepreneurs, they have those epiphany in the weirdest time, in the weirdest places. What was yours? Do you remember?
I don't remember, but a lot of my time that I get ideas is when I go for running. I find running is a meditative state, and I just have some moments of creativity and thoughts that I hadn't thought of. Still with my business now, that's when I have mindless time where I don't have any distractions, is when I am the most creative. And that's what I encourage people to do. If you need some creativity, you need some still time where you're not distracted by everything else in your life. And I don't meditate, but definitely I get into this meditative state when I go for a run. So that's when ideas just pop in my mind. So it was a lot of soul searching. It was a lot of searching, what are other people doing as nurse practitioners, what exists out there and throughout Canada, and how can I adapt it to me, what I could do with it, and what's my vision with it. So there wasn't an exact moment. And I'm telling you, I have mom brain, because during that time, my youngest child was not sleeping and was sick all the time. And I was up for her first 2 years of life. She was like a newborn, because I was up with her every hour to 2 hours for 2 years. So there's a lot of my memory that's been affected during that time, for that, not right now, but back then when I was hugely sleep deprived, it does affect your memory. So when I go back, it was really a time of hardship, and of wanting to move forward, and wanting, of course, my child to be healthy, but still not letting go of my dream.
Wow. Oh my God. Yeah. And it would have been so easy to say, I can't do it right now because I can't do it because, right? And oh, by the way, Teresa is saying nurses rock, by the way. I want to show you that.
Nurse practitioners, nurses, we all rock, I'm telling you.
But so how do you, because there are two types of entrepreneur, like female entrepreneur, and it's like, I'm gonna do it no matter what, and I can't do it right now. It's not a judgment, it's just what's going on. I can't do it. I'll do it when this is fixed. I'll do it when I can, or when I feel better, or and then we kind of push back our dreams. So what does it take, Lynne, to go through endless night with no sleep, having that giant Mount Everest in front of you, saying, I'm going to sell my nurse practitioner services online, even if nobody is doing it right now where I live?
Yeah.
What does it take inside?
It takes grit. It takes perseverance. And if I were to do it all over again, if I knew all the challenges and the hardship and the barriers that still exist still this day, because I'm a woman-dominated profession, and because I mean, nurses have a history of subserviency. So anything that goes outside that box, even if it's not a legislative barrier, I've had so many barriers, mostly from women, which was surprising to me. You think that women would be most uplifting. The biggest barriers I've had at a political level has been women that have put roadblocks, and even from other nurses that don't support nurse practitioners. So it's been a huge, a lot of, like unbelievable moments where people are putting roadblocks for the sake of, they don't think you should be doing this. They don't think a nurse practitioner should be outside of that bubble. It's more they're letting their personal biases get in the way of something that's perfectly legit, that physicians are currently doing. And a nurse practitioner and a family doctor or an ER doctor doing a virtual call, we can all do the same thing online. There's no limitations there in a sense of what the skill sets of what a virtual medical appointment can do.
Wow. So tell me, Lynne, so it's one thing to have the struggle of building a business, or the challenge, I should call it, it's challenging, right? It challenges your mindset all the time. And then going through some adversity around you, like, so great. But what does that look like every day? Like, what do you do to
keep going? That's it. Like, I've always been a perseverant person, and I've always been a pioneer. Yogi, my Dr. Yogi Segal, my husband, my consultant, the other brain I poke, has said, even when I was up north working in the Outpost, Northern Indigenous communities, I was an innovator back then, and even when I was in family practice with them in Sioux Lookout, Ontario, I was a first nurse practitioner to establish things like, he says, everywhere you've been, you have pushed through, you've pioneered, you have, I think it's something innate of having that grit. I don't know how it's something that you can learn, but you just keep going and persevering when you strongly believe and you're a passionate person about life and about what you believe and what's right. So yeah, I think keeping going even when things just look so bleak is grit.
Let's go to Nunavut. So tell us where for.
Not Nunavut, it was northwestern Ontario,
Oh, okay.
Bay area and northern Indigenous communities.
Okay, sorry, I thought you said Nunavut. Okay, tell us when you were there, so I know how remote. Like I read a lot about those community where there is no road, right? So you probably learned something over there.
Oh yeah.
But good.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It was my formative years, I would say, up north, because I was a young nurse and I wanted to do something different. And that's actually why I became a nurse practitioner, because I wanted to get more skills to serve the population of the north. So I went back to university, did my master's to become a nurse practitioner once I went up north. So I spent close to almost 10 years to the day in northern Indigenous communities in the Outpost. So these places are so remote. So imagine there's populations from 500 to 2,000. And the only way to get there is by little planes. And there's gravel road landings. There's tiny little planes. And sometimes, depending on the year, most years they're able to have winter roads, meaning that once the lakes are frozen enough, we drive on the lakes. Okay.
Wow. Ooh, I have shivers. Yeah. Tell us more about that. Tell us more. What does that bring in your life when you do stuff like that? The connection to nature.
Oh, yeah. Life. I mean, life and death up there is a reality because you do not have access to all the big tools of the big centers like CT scans and all of that. So it is a risk of living in that. There's a beauty in it, but there's a risk in it, right? Being a healthcare provider. And being a nurse up there or a nurse practitioner, you do everything from A to Z because the doctor comes maybe once a month and you're the eyes and the ears of the doctor. You can still call for consults. So you get very good at giving histories, and history is so important to figuring out a diagnosis. Like 80% of your diagnosis is from the history, 20% is from investigation and the exam. But really, being a very good historian to really get the best care for this patient and to know when to sit on them and when to fly them out. And sometimes it can be weathered out for days where you're sitting on a critical patient and you're on 24/7 and you might be only two nurse and there might be another trauma that comes in. So tag you're it, okay? Think you're the ambulance. Well, there's not necessarily an ambulance depending on the community you're in. You're the pickup truck with the cab over it. You're trying to make sure your IV doesn't freeze while you're waiting for the plane to land at the airport while you're trying to medevac somebody out. That's critical. So you're as much doing the immunization as fixing the furnace where you're minus 30 at night. I've had to sleep with my dogs next to me in my parka where there was no power, no heat. I've had to use, there was no backup generator for a while. So using the backlight of my Palm Pilot to sort things out, find medications in the pharmacy, to fixing the printer, to answering the phone. You're it. You're a one-woman show.
Wow. Well, what is your best memory or your best, success story over there?
I mean, the best, most exciting times is when a baby comes. Although when a baby comes there is because they're coming early, and usually you want to ship women out to the main centers because they are a higher risk population in northern Indigenous communities. So you want them to be in a bigger center, even if it's a small center like Sioux Lookout, Ontario, 5,000 people, but at least they have the facility to do a C-section and all of that. We only have the basic tools. But babies come when they come. And delivering babies was definitely a moment. I mean, I went on to have my own children, and the significance of those moments are amazing, scary, and all of that at the same time.
Oh, Lynn. Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow. What do you miss the most about this life that is everything or nothing, basically? You do it, or you miss, like, if you miss the time, it's done. Like,
I mean, it was a wild time before I had kids, in the sense that your personal safety can be an issue. You are alone a lot of times seeing patients. So I don't know if I would be willing to take that level of risk now that I have children. But I think the part that I missed the most was the connection with the community. You are a part of that community. The nurses you work with, you get such strong bonds with those nurses because they hold your back in those moments, right? I don't think I've ever had any workplace type of relationships that were so intimate and close, because you are 24/7. In some places, you live in the clinic, okay? And you don't get to see anybody else. Back then, Skype wasn't available. So other than a phone call to your family once in a while, you are isolated. And those are the people that are your connection, your colleagues, and that will have your back in those really tough hours where you're doing a 36-hour crazy shift, which normally, that's not what you would want to do in an optimal situation. But sometimes you're two people, and whatever happens to a human body can come to your door in more than one person, and you're only two people. So yeah, it's intense.
wow, what a beautiful story. So I see a great thing. Like you had to practice it there for sure.
It formed who I was as a person. It definitely changed who I was.
So okay, so we're in the northern part of Ontario, which is in somewhere north in Canada, very remote. Yeah. Then you come back to New Brunswick, where we live now, kind of. I'm going fast, okay? Whoop, like a kangaroo, like it's about how many kilometers? I don't know.
Well, we actually took the train to move here, and that's where I met my husband.
In the train?
No, in Sioux Lookout, Ontario. So the northern nurse meets the northern doctor story, and I imported him back here to New Brunswick. I consider a doctor an import.
Okay, so you guys hook up, and then you travel to New Brunswick
on the train.
On the train. How romantic is that? Because it's
and I moved with my little mint plant that I had from there. It survived all the way, and it's here still today.
Oh, wow.
Back from this is back from 2007, 2009, but 2010 is when we moved. But that mint plant still is surviving inside my house, and outside it comes back every year, and that's what I cook with.
Wow. So what is special with that plant?
It's an Italian mint, and it's a little bit of a long story, but Dr. Yogi Sehgal, Yogi is my husband, like Yogi, like the bear. Yogi's dad is, and he's East Indian descent, but they moved here like over 50 years ago. And his dad went to the market one day to buy some mint. And this Italian guy said, "Hey, I have some mint in my backyard. I'll give you some mint. Don't buy some mint." And this was mint from Italy, some beautiful chocolate mint. So it went from that man's from Italy to Ottawa to Yogi in Sioux Lookout, Ontario, where it got planted in the ground. And then I brought it from a pot all the way on the train and moved it here. Yeah.
That's kind of a cool story. Special mint, right? Yes. So Lynne, now, with all those steps, I want to bring you back just when you decided to build your business. You had your kids, you couldn't find work in your field. You said, I'm going to create my own work. So what is the one concrete action that you took that really delivered the results? What was it?
Social media and Angelique.
I didn't expect this one. I was like, what is she talking about? Okay, I love it that you still think like that. I love it.
Yes.
Okay, tell us why. You open the chapter now.
Yes.
What happened?
Well, like I said, I was hearing crickets in the beginning, right? And even like, okay, people need access. I'm actually, there is a fee for my services now, but in the beginning I was doing it for free because I needed my hours. I was desperate. This was like, I had a short timeline to This was in the summer, by September, to get my hours in before they expired again, and then I'd have to go back to university and start all over. It was like, oh my God, no, I can't do this with these 3 kids. So I've known Angelique now for 10 years, around that now,
Yeah,
right?
probably. Yeah.
Close to that. So I didn't know that she was doing this, and it was when I met her, and we were talking. I was talking about my business, and then, do you know that I do this? I was like, I'm about to launch my business. I might need your help. And I did really need your help, because as a healthcare professional, social media is very intimidating, and we're told, to be professional, kept our private life private, and finding that fine balance and doing it well, and getting known. Social media was the key, and Angelique was the key to coach me through it, to help me through it. And she worked so hard. She works hard for, I'm sure, everybody, but she works hard. It makes you want to work harder, because she's putting all this energy. It kind of motivates you to keep going at it.
You did it. You did the work, because you do the work. You're part of those women who do the work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Get it done.
Yeah. And then I remember when we started, then you got approached by the media, because they were seeing you on social media, right? So it went like blah, 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 right?
Yes. CBC, Telegraph Journal, Daily Gleaner, Radio-Canada, interviews, and podcasts, and more. And it just went on. And I had to be ready to, this was something new, not something that I was prepared for, but got prepared for. I'm like that Girl Scout, always be prepared.
Yeah. And what was amazing with you, that right from the go, how do you say, the start go, whatever, you started to share your story. So you're not new at sharing your story. And we were discussing before that show, that there is so many nurse practitioners in the world, and probably online, not here where we live, but more and more anyway. But so why should I go to you versus to the other one, right? So, and most of the time it's because of your karma or your personality, and then the stories you share, because the way you described to me what it meant to become a mom through the work you did in the Northern Territories with giving birth to kids in remote places, and what it meant for you the day that you had your own kids. That's an amazing story. I almost cried, Lynne.
Oh.
Yeah, because this is a human, it's the world, the story of the world, right? So I love it. So since the beginning, you start so much of your story. Even that one, I didn't know that story. So I love it, because we are a wealth of stories, and stories is what make humanity go and share and bring back memories and collective memories, the bad and the good, actually, right? So you're so good at that. So we're gonna kind of wrap up, but I want you to bring us to what is the main false belief that you had before your entrepreneurial journey that you now know it's not true, but at the time you thought it was a thing. What was it?
To do a business? What was my false belief? I don't know. I wasn't prepared for becoming an entrepreneur, so I don't think I had too many preconceived notions. I just did it and push forward. Okay, I learn as you go. Yeah. And you were asking, why should people choose me? And that's been a thought exercise that I've had to do when competition has come up, and brought on my physicians, which I actually helped to support the competition, because they wanted to give more access to care. And I gave them lots of advice, because they came to me because they felt I was doing it well and doing it right, and they wanted to do it well. And I think that's the most important thing, certainly when you want to bring more access to rural populations, to support each other. I know it's hard to support the competition, but at the same time, it's important to do the right thing when the other person has the right intent. So now they launch quickly, and they have no barriers, no problems, because they're physicians. And it's just that prejudice that exists in society, where I still, after 3 years of battling, and doing all the right moves, that I still have all the same barriers, which I'm able to address because I have easy access to my collaborating physician. If I have to do this thought exercise, why would people come to see me? Because they're getting big and I'm small. I am a one-woman show again, just like up north.
I love this. That's true.
You get me from A to Z. So when you book, you go through these screening algorithms that I designed in French and English that have all sorts of safety mechanisms, and I learned how to program code. And it was so much that went into this business. So I get even a trigger notification text message when somebody clicks on something dangerous. They've been told to go to emergency, but I am very responsible to check on what this person's booking for. And that's why I ask for all this information. So I know that if you book 2 days down the road, that I'm not making you wait for something that you should be seeing for today. It's all about safety, patient safety, looking out for you guys. And the advantage is that you get to see me. If you ever do come back, you get to see me again. You get to know me, and you get to know the advice and the knowledge, and also that I have somebody else's brain to poke. Dr. Yogi Segal, he is an evidence-based medicine guru and a fantastic brain that has a brain for numbers and scientific evidence data. So you get me, but you get also my sidekick if I ever need to poke that sidekick. So having that consistency avoids that you don't have to repeat yourself when you do come back to see me. And I have people that do come back, and I do take the time with the patients, and I make sure people are well taken care of. So that's why wanting to choose me, wanting to choose somebody local, somebody real, and somebody that's a mom that's got experience. And the advice I used to give before I had kids and the advice I give now are very different. So it's humbled me as a practitioner and as a person. So yeah, that's all.
I love that you compare your experience in the remote Indigenous villages and what you're going through right now in terms of the experience, the one-on-one experience you have with your patients is the same. And you bring that extra care, and it's beyond the medical stuff. It's that connection, right? That makes a difference. I love that you compare. Like, I love to, when women like you share their story, I like to try to find a thread, because there is a thread since you're born, right? From your sisters that you were feeding when they were sick, making the jello, right? One-on-one here. And then we go in the Indigenous villages where there is no road. And what do? You repair the furnace, you make sure the IV doesn't freeze, and then you give birth to a baby that was supposed to be in a hospital, flew the few days before, but it didn't happen. You're there. You are there.
Yeah, you get me, and you get me from beginning to the end. And I always do my best for people, and I love what I do, and I'm very passionate in what I do in life, and also in caring for people.
Yeah. Okay. Love it. Now, all that work, that business is here, you're growing. What is the first big payoff, would you say, of all of this work?
I think the big payoff is helping people and feeling that I've helped people. So at the end of a visit, I felt that I've helped somebody. I would go for a walk after an appointment. It feels good to know that I've been able to help, and I've been able to improve somebody's life in some way.
Love it. That's any entrepreneur. We help people, right? When it feels right and good, and then you go for your walk and you're like, oh, that's why I'm sweating like that every day. This is for this reason. I want more of this. I want more of that impact, right?
Yeah. And the people that the two compliments that I get, I would say, would be, people by the end of the appointment, this is amazing. This is so great. I wish I would have known about this before. And the compliment that I get is they send me their friends, and they come back. So I know that they feel they've been well taken care of, and they see the value in me.
Okay. Anything else I should have asked you, Lynne, before we go?
Accesspointhealth.ca is my website, and I do lots of free education on social media, particularly on Facebook. I try to keep up to date and keep on the pulse of things. So there's more to that I do. There's things that I will be restarting after this. The Good Old Medicine of house calls. I was doing this before. I had never advertised that I was doing house calls, and I did house calls, of course, when I was in the bush in the north. I was, the old medicine bag going to people's houses. So before COVID, I was doing also house calls and virtual care. So I was doing the old medicine and new medicine that I enjoy going into people's homes to help them out, and that connection that you get with people when you get to go in their home and to help them out. So that will restart, and of course, doing once we have a good rollout of the COVID vaccine, I'll be doing also workplace medical visits like I was doing before. Just I wasn't advertising. It was just, okay, look, I can't help you online, but if you're here locally, I can help you and go do a little house call visit on you. And people were like, "What? You do that?"
Yeah.
No. So that's for to restart in the future. Right now, I've been homeschooling my 3 kids to keep them safe, and also to keep them from giving a virus to my husband, so he can keep working. A cold or whatever would stop him from being an ER doctor, which we're short staffed. So once they've gone back to school, then probably I will restart that next part of the service that I just put on hold for now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lynne. Thank you for sharing all of this. How do you feel?
Good.
That was intense.
Yes, I guess I wear my heart on my sleeve.
Okay, if you guys are watching the replay and you have questions for Lynne, either send me a DM or find her. I just put at the bottom here, accesspointhealth.ca. That's the right address, right?
Accesspointhealth.ca. Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then if you have questions, maybe you're a nurse or a nurse practitioner, and that's one of your dreams. I'm sure Lynne would appreciate to share some of her stuff with you. I think she has a spot in her calendar for that. Right? Okay, so thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Lynne, for sharing, what matters the most to you, and then for inspiring people who are going to be watching the replay. Thank you so much. Ciao, ciao, Instagram, ciao, ciao, YouTube, Facebook, and the podcast here. Ciao, ciao.